Hello. Chances are that when you go to your favorite local restaurant and order a soft drink, they have Coca-Cola. When you think of Coca-Cola, you think of that curvaceous glass bottle filled with dark, syrupy sweetness. Most of us have a sweet memory attached to drinking Coca-Cola. Whether it was when you were a young child or when you were old enough to drive, you remember the first time you experienced a Coca-Cola beverage. They've been around for over a century and continue to be one of the oldest beverage companies today. It has lasted through as times as the Depression and has become one of the most successful companies in the world. Their international ventures and stand-up reputation has skyrocketed them into popularity. Coca-Cola was founded by a small-town pharmacist in Georgia. In 1886, stated the Coca-Cola Company, when the curiosity of an Atlanta pharmacist, Dr. John S. Pemberton, led him to create a distinctive, lasting soft drink that could be sold at soda fountains. Soda fountains were the big thing back in the day. People went and gathered there, just kind of like your modern-day coffee shop. He created this flavor and took it to his neighborhood pharmacy, where it was mixed with carbonated water and deemed excellent by everybody who tasted it. In this way, and back in the day, they had to sell Coca-Cola in a pharmacy due to the caffeine content. They thought it was something that only pharmacists should sell, so that's why it really was a pharmacist that made up with it, and that's why it was sold firstly in a pharmacy. Doctors soon supported Coca-Cola as it helped get rid of elements back then. Back in the late 1800s was when people really complained a lot of headaches and exhaustion. They were very hard workers as it was. They didn't have the convenience of today. And so Coca-Cola really helped with that due to the caffeine. It would help get rid of the headaches and it would help kill that exhaustion. You'd just be jolted up on that caffeine. Soon, a businessman would come along named Asa Chandler, who bought the formula for only $550. Yes, that was quite a nice sum back in the day, but when you think about how much Coca-Cola is worth today, which we'll go over just here in a minute, it's nothing compared to what it's worth. Due to Chandler's amazing marketing strategy, he soon became a millionaire just overnight. As Father Time began to take hold of him, he knew he would have to sell the company. Somebody would have to take it over. He wanted it to last forever. So then the company was sold to a group of investors headed up by a man named Robert Woodruff for a mere $25 million. That's a huge amount even in today's money, but it's huge. So Robert Woodruff then became the president of Coca-Cola. He was coined and named by everybody the father of Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola would not be here today if it wasn't for Robert Woodruff. He was a true businessman, and he knew that Coca-Cola was going to be a lasting company, and he wanted it to be a lasting company. So he knew it had to go international. Even with the struggles that we were having with Cuba at the time, he still ventured over there to start a factory in Cuba. He went as far as Australia. He was in Europe. They are in every part of the world at this point, even in Africa. Robert Woodruff's idea was that even if somebody here in Georgia could drink as much Coca-Cola as they did, anybody in the world could. In Rome, Georgia, where Coca-Cola really was represented the most, they consumed more Coca-Cola than anywhere in the world. They drank it like water, morning, day, and night. So he thought that anywhere in the world should be the same. If it can happen in Rome, Georgia, it can happen in Egypt, it can happen in Argentina, it can happen in Australia. So that's what he strived for. So Robert Woodruff, he would send cases with the military overseas. This was in a time we were still in World War II, and so we were still overseas going back and forth. And he would just send cases upon cases on trains of Coca-Cola and leave it free at the train station. They would just unload it off the train station and leave it free for anybody in the country, so that people could start to see all over the world that Coca-Cola really was a name brand everywhere. He was the guru of the man who initiated the slick marketing campaigns. During the World War II, right after Pearl Harbor, he came up with putting a Coca-Cola in every military man's hand. He promised and vowed to them that if you were in the military personnel, even a veteran of the military, that you could always, no matter what, buy a Coca-Cola for 5 cents. He also came up with the time of marketing for Santa Claus. These are popular advertisements that still are seen today. They were illustrated and they were seen with Santa Claus holding a Coca-Cola. This is a time, like I said, in World War II where people really needed hope. They needed to hang on to something that was happy. They weren't hearing a lot of good news, so that they needed it, and Coca-Cola provided that. They show good when it was a time of bad. Now that the Coca-Cola was, a company, but it would not be the company if it wasn't for the bottlers. The bottlers were the actual salespeople of the company. They're the ones that would go to places like McDonald's, the corporation, and sell the product to them to say, I want you to carry this in your store. To the little grocery stores, to the mom and pop stores, the gas station, they're the people that would actually go and sell the product. So Coca-Cola then entrusted everything that they were into these bottlers. Even when it came to making the bottle itself, the famous bottle itself came from an actual bottler in Indiana. Coca-Cola was worried that the bottles that they were using were just these square jar bottles with a little lip on the top. Looked exactly like its competitors, like Pepsi at the time, and they wanted to be different, like Coca-Cola is. That's why they're so Rembrandt in our mind. So a bottler from Indiana came up with this curvaceous look of Coca-Cola, which is famously known now, and has been said that they will never change that. This is kind of what they look like. As you can see through the eras, as you get closer later into the 20th century, you can see that the Coca-Cola bottle became more curvaceous, and it would stay that way. Coca-Cola won the hearts of Americans. Troops would demand Coca-Cola as it was the only thing that would make them less homesick. When troops came over to America, they knew that Coca-Cola was the company to be at. Their emotional advertising and financial generosity made them favorites among all. It was just not the favorites of Americans, but the employees of the company as well. Employees were immediate investors in the company. Coca-Cola has some of the lowest turnover rate because of this. They treat their employees very well, even so that Roger Woodruff, who was the president at the time of the company, threw a $30 million party. It was a week of party, and he just threw it for everybody to show what appreciation they had for them and to show what they're working for and who they're working for. It was a great way for employees, especially back then, to see their actual company cared. There's not only any other company in the world that offers as much as the Coca-Cola Company. Their international ventures and upstanding reputation with customers and employees just confirm how successful this company truly is. Don't you want to go out and buy a Coca-Cola?